Hey YouTubers, Shawna here. I've been busy doing paperwork the last few days and haven't had a chance to make any videos, so I thought I'd take a little bit of time to fill you in on what's been going on because it's been quite an eventful weekend and the plot thickens, unfortunately. So those of you that may have just tuned in, I just wanted to recap. I live in California, Auburn, California, and back in 1996, California residents voted in California Prop 215, the California Compassionate Care Act, and that was specifically written and enacted to be able to basically get rid of big pharmaceutical in so many ways. This is a plant that has been proven to be medicinal for so many different things, and our California residents voted it in to be legal for medicinal uses of any age. So with that being said, my 5-year-old son was diagnosed with epilepsy. We had just moved to Idaho from Auburn. My husband had gotten transferred to the rural areas, and we relocated to get away from the politics and the taxes and all of that stuff of Auburn, or of California, and we relocated to the Boise area. Shortly after relocating, my son's diagnosis came in of epilepsy. We tried several different pharmaceutical drugs, but none of them controlled his seizures, forcing us to look for alternatives because our son was having seizures day and night and was completely in seizure state and either sleeping or suffering the horrific side effects or actually having seizures. So we decided when our lease came up and the kids got out of school that we would move back to California, and since we lived in the Auburn area and we have friends and connections and everything, we moved back to the Auburn area, Placer County. We found people in the area that grew cannabis, that had legal Prop 215 collectives. We went on a mad search to find specialty plants that we knew was proven to control seizures. And we found a pediatric cannabis doctor that specializes in cannabis and children, and took our son on March 21st. He examined our son, read through his medical records, verified that he had epilepsy, that he had been on several pharmaceutical drugs. It was well documented that he suffered from all the side effects as well as the medicine not controlling his seizures. So he was completely a candidate for cannabis. Dr. Bannister recommended certain plants due to our son's age and his seizure disorder. Suzy Q, Pineapple Tonic, and Charlotte's Web are 3 of the highest CBD plants that I purchased, that I grew for my son's medicine. And we found that it was very successful. My son went from 90 plus seizures a month to 2. And the 2 that he did have was very, very mild. I kept a seizure log. We kept, every time that my ex-husband had the kids, he would text me whenever my son had a seizure, the severity, how long, what medicine he gave, the whole thing, because my ex-husband went to the doctor with us. He 100% was involved in everything and 100% on board. However, he told CPS and the sheriff that he was blindly being led by his wife, that he knew nothing, and that my new boyfriend and myself had been poisoning his son for the last 5 months. After he said he's jealous and he doesn't like my new boyfriend, right there made him a not credible witness, but yet they continued to check into his allegations. Detective Glauco was assigned to the report and drove by, already knowing that it was a legal Prop 215 collective, knowing that those were sick people's medicine growing in that greenhouse, knowing that my son's medicine was in that greenhouse. Detective Glauco drove by and said, "Oh, I can see more than 7 plants through that solid wood fence that's 7 feet. And I can see more than 7 plants through that milky plastic greenhouse cover that has a door that I can't see through the door. But yet he reported he could see more than 7 visible plants from the road and requested a search warrant under Prop 64. Prop 64 is what California residents just voted in to be legal for anyone over the age of 21 to recreationally consume cannabis. However, in 1996, we voted in that it's legal for medicinal patients of any age as long as you're being prescribed and recommended by a legitimate medical professional that's licensed and is a real doctor. So anyways, we were completely following the rules. Detective Glauco lied on top of Mr. Sipherd's lies. Detective Trednick, which was special ops from Placer County, also was on the raid and has a handful of embarrassing bold-faced lies, not to mention common sense, in the warrant report. And the fact that these detectives knew they were on a legal Prop 215 collective, they knew it was legal before they asked for the warrant. They came in, they were holding all of the recommendations. They had them spread out over the hood of the SUV. Detective Glauco on the phone with somebody. I don't know who that person is, but I'm going to find out, because whoever that person is absolutely corrupt as well, because that person knew it was illegal Prop 215. Knew the detective was holding paper recommendations, as well as we had 2 cancer patients with a recommendation from their doctor and was 100% a member of our collective. So we were 100% legal. Detective Glauco said we had 146 plants. We didn't have 146 plants. I have proof. I have pictures of the greenhouse of all of our stripped down plants with all the empty pots, proving there was not 146 plants in there. There wasn't. It's impossible for the size that our plants were and the size of the greenhouse. There's not enough room for 146 plants. And yet Detective Glauco said that we had 146 plants in the report. But he also says in his report that, oh gosh, actually, I forgot to count how many they actually had. I just wrote down 146 because it sounded good. And that's actually my favorite numbers, because all of the other reports that I've written and the illegal raids that I've been on, I just pull 146 out of the air because that's what I put in all my reports. That's my go-to number. So yeah, Detective Glauco wrote in the report we had 146 plants. We did not have 146 plants. Dude also wrote in a whole bunch of other reports that you can look up. It's public information. Dude writes, all of these people have 146 plants. I just find it very odd that all of these reports the detective is involved in, we all have 146 plants. But I have documented proof we didn't. So it doesn't matter what he says. He's busted. Absolutely busted. Not to mention there's a whole bunch of other lies that I have documented proof for. And that will be in his false police report packet, that I will be making a false police report against him with all of my documented proof after I get the authorization from Mr. Sam Burns, Brian's attorney. So you might have to stay tuned for that video of us making false police reports against the detectives with our documented proof, because our county is still trying to prosecute Brian for poisoning my son with cannabis that they claim is butane. However, they've already admitted in open court it's not butane. They knew it wasn't butane before they took it. Detective Glauco admitted in court that it's not butane. We have tests of the coconut oil that I was giving my son that proved it wasn't butane, as well as I have a copy of the tests that Mr. Sam Burns had, the actual coconut oil they have in evidence illegally. I have the test results for that too, and there's no butane. And everybody knows there's no butane, but yet they're still trying to prosecute Brian for manufacturing butane honey hash oil, for cultivation under Prop 64 when we have all of these legitimate recommendations, and for poisoning my son when I've provided documented proof that that was absolutely not what we were doing. And the only people that say we were poisoning my son is Mr. Sipherd and Gloria Sutton from CPS. At the same exact time, Mr. Sipherd's telling Gloria that he's blindly being led by his ex-wife, that he is just an innocent bystander and he just does what she says, and she came up with everything. She found the dosing and she found what kind, and it's totally my ex-wife. Well, I have our son at Dr. Bannister's office for a follow-up, and Dr. Bannister's absolutely impressed with the progress my son has made on the cannabis. His seizures are being controlled. His sensory disorder is being helped. He spoke with essentially clear speech. He followed the instructions of the doctor, and he wrote a letter. Then I take my son to the pediatrician, and she says the same thing. He followed her commandments, essentially clear speech, was very impressed of the progress he'd made on cannabis. And mind you, the pediatrician doesn't support cannabis. She only supports Western medicine, aka poison. But yet she flat out said in my son's medical records that he's doing awesome and that his speech is awesome. And the medical record appointment prior to that, she reported he was not listening, he was bouncing off the walls, all of the things that he had did, she reported that. So I have documented proof that my son was doing amazing on the cannabis, but yet Mr. Sipherd and Placer County say that I was poisoning. However, the doctors with the medical degree are the ones with the authority, and the law says that, not the biased agenda or opinion of CPS workers or detectives that need to further their agenda. So needless to say, we have major corruption in Placer County because this was a legal Prop 215 collective, and they knew it was. And they were excited about cutting down my son's medicine and stealing legitimate sick patients' medicine. And as a direct result of that, there's ramifications. There's legal ramifications. There are moral ramifications. There's ethics involved. There's sick people involved that don't have their medicine and hasn't had their medicine for a year. And it's in evidence at Placer County, illegally being stored there. So anyways, I'm at 13 and a half minutes and I need to cut it off, but you'll need to watch my next video because I'm going to play a letter from a girlfriend of mine that was a patient on our collective. We supplied her medicine. She wrote this letter. It was filed in criminal court over a year ago on behalf of Brian. And I want to introduce you to my friend. She has cancer. It's not happy, but she's a beautiful, beautiful woman, and I want to introduce you to her through her letter. So stay tuned for my next video.